What's up, fam? I probably should cut those veggies first. I'm cooking up a little bit. I guess I can pause it. I just want to talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about this dynamic between shame, power, money. That's so huge in our culture, man. In the West, in the United States in particular, but I think most Western countries, most industrialized countries, the value of a person is so often almost exclusively attached to how much money they make, or how much money they have, or how many resources they have already accumulated. When you hear terms like net worth, and oftentimes online it's just like, this person is worth XYZ number of dollars. It's pretty crazy, especially as men, dude. As men, our value as human beings almost exclusively tied into dollar amount, and particularly relevant with Father's Day just passing this weekend. It's like so many men struggle with this issue, being exclusively valued as like a piggy bank or a fucking ATM machine. and society, our society in particular, it's a shame. It's a shame what society does with shame, to humiliate and degrade people based on, so often, dude. So often these things are beyond somebody's control. On some level, yes, we all have direction over our lives, but when you start looking at the reality of Earth life, and discrimination and abuse and trauma and disability of many kinds, physical, psychological, these things are like barely being recognized in recent years, of course, by the law, and in the reality of day-to-day life, still not recognized at all for the probably the majority of people that are dealing with any of this kind of stuff. These issues are so tricky, man. These issues are so tricky. Power and sovereignty and having power in our own life is complex. Living in society, because multiple things can be true at the same time. Like, we need each other, especially with businesses and complex, like, social entities, complex economics and stuff like that. There's so many moving parts at all the time. At all times, all the time. And I've spent most of my life in various types of trades, construction, landscape primarily, but also I worked in restaurants for like 10 years, and so most of this time, most of the people I've worked with have been Latino over the years, overall, and the amount of abuse and just the horrific fucking discrimination that people experience, that these people, especially, like, I've seen it firsthand, and I've had retaliation against me multiple times, standing up for these people, standing up against other managers. And when I saw shit going on, I'm like, no, fuck this. You're not going to do that. You're not going to treat these people like this. You're not going to speak that way. And had to blow up in my face multiple times, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, the power dynamics, dude. People just want to feel superior, and they think money can do that. They think, like, degrading other people can do that. They think that they're racist or sexist or whatever the bullshit they have in their belief systems. They think if they can act that out on others, that puts them above these other people. This is the day-to-day norm for so many people here and around the world. and then to have everything just reduced to fucking dollar signs, dude. Like, what could possibly be more fucking empty than that? I mean, there is important functions of money and value, and I've seen things over the years as well, because I've worked at, from top to bottom, from the wealthiest people, the wealthiest people in the world I've worked for personally, all the way down through, business owners that run multi-million-dollar businesses, to small business owners and being a small business owner, and working with and alongside people at the very, very bottom of the economic scale, and having landed there, and having grown up there a lot of time. A lot of my childhood too was spent there, and these wounds that people carry, and the shame and this stuff, dude, this can go back generations deep, because it's like, when we're, hold on one second. This is why for peoples who have emigrated due to warfare, displacement, starvation, etc., when these threats to our life and existence, especially when stretched out over long term, like when there's famine and stuff like that, this stuff gets locked into our DNA. It alters the DNA of our grandparents, great grandparents, and depending on what happens afterwards, depending on how whether people survive, and what the culture does with that, and what the individuals do with that, and those events, and how they interpret them, and how, whether or not they heal from any of that stuff is going to affect the children and the grandchildren, and so much, man. It literally alters the DNA, and that stuff can get passed down even if you don't know anything about it. And this is where so much trauma in our bodies can live, and money wounds can live, and the fear, survival, fear of loss, fear of every single kind can be rooted in these things. And so when there's shame from the culture compounding it and making it worse and worse and worse, dude, it can become almost impossible to address these things. And this is part of why in men especially, the rates of depression are so much higher, and self-unaliving is so much higher in men. A lot of it's because of this, because the expectations to provide, and then being treated as, oftentimes, like, your value is the dollar signs that are attached to you. And losses can happen for so many reasons. It's not always within our control. Overall, yes, we're responsible for the choices in our lives, but there's world events, and then how we respond to those is a huge piece of the equation as well. But money wounds are deep, man. Money wounds are deep. Shame and self-hatred and self-loathing that comes from being a social outcast for whatever reason. Oftentimes these get bound up in financial issues, though, unknowingly in childhood. The kids that don't have the newest clothes and toys and vacations and things like that, they get outcast through no fault of their own. Rarely do they ever even know what happened or why. Humans, we tend to grow up thinking that if those things happen to us, then there must be a reason for it. It must be our fault, It must be because we're lower value. We have lower value. We have lower intrinsic value than these other people. And then that the whole spiral of like poverty and drug abuse and addiction and violence and all these different things, dude, they compound and they compound and they compound, and generally get passed down through the generations. Or like earlier birth rates, and then the kids aren't anywhere near capable of like raising children, especially not in a healthy way, and just goes down and down and down, man. But reclaiming power and reclaiming sovereignty in our lives, a big piece of this is identifying those judgments, shame, self-loathing, anything else we might have that, and these things, these beliefs, these events in our life and in our early life, dude, it can be a tangled web. Really hard to even remember. So much of this stuff, so much of the time. But starting to get down in there and rejecting those beliefs that don't honor who we are in God and our intrinsic value as living beings, whether we're male, female, fucking whatever, you know? Like, God loves us. God made us. Our value is absolute and it's guaranteed, and it's because we fucking exist. We have the right to be here. We have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I believe this is natural law. Yes, it's written into the U.S. Constitution, but this is the foundation of existence anywhere as far as I can see. And part of that is sovereignty of our own fucking bodies, dude. We need to be able to have the right. We need to be able to have the right and express the right to choose what we do with our own fucking bodies, our own boundaries, and everything. You know, that's everything else is based on that. If we don't have that, we have nothing. We're slaves. And so much of society is stripping away that sovereignty from people, little piece by little piece, by our parents, by our teachers, by workplaces, by schools, etc. ad nauseum. And then we wonder why so many people are afraid to break out of the freaking patterns of the matrix of the destruction that we're all headed for. So this is how the system was designed. It wasn't designed to make free-thinking, powerful, sovereign individuals. Money isn't the thing, dude. Money is so important, and it's so fun. And when you're getting into like higher level stuff, like I've seen what, you know, when you're creating like grand works and doing big projects and big businesses and things that change the fucking world, money is necessary. It's a big piece of that. There's nothing wrong with money. But as individual beings, when we identify our value exclusively with that, do we run into all kinds of problems. All kinds of problems. First and foremost being that sense of shame and self-loathing that can devolve rapidly into depression and the whole host of incredibly self-destructive patterns. I guess that's it. I was gonna write some stuff on the board, but then I didn't. Sovereignty, power, authority, dollar bills, value. Money matters, but earthly life is like, it's a dance, dude. It's a balance. It's a flow. And if you're in a tight place, or if you've ended up devastated for one reason or another financially, and you find everybody turning their fucking back on you and making the situation getting worse and worse, making the situation worse and worse, and then feeling worse and worse about it, and it's like a downward fucking spiral. You got to stop the internal dialogue first. So your value is in your inherent existence. It's in God. God loves you. I love you. No matter what's going on, no matter what's going on in the world or in your life, dude, things can change, and they do. They're actually guaranteed to change. That's the only thing that's guaranteed. It's the other problem that we humans have so much. We want everything fixed and finished and like legible and understandable. But all we can do is roll with it, baby. Just fucking roll with it. There ain't no finish. There ain't no finish line in this fucking life, dude. It's movement. It's change. It's evolution. Staying comfortable, I think a big part of it is recognizing the patterns and building for stability, building and saving and putting resources away is very, very important and very, very wise where we can do that. But we can't always control when things are going to happen. I mean, look at World War II. Like some of the wealthiest people in the world were cleaned out overnight. Not just by the Nazis, but similar things happened all over the place, and similar things happen every freaking day through right now, wherever there is war. And look at what's happening in Iran right now. 300 billion in assets just fucking frozen like that because somebody said so. And think how many of those people had all of their freaking eggs in that basket that's now locked up somewhere. This is the reality, dude. This is the reality. And decentralization, crypto, and all this stuff is like, it was a move to try to get to try to address some of these problems, and it has and it hasn't. Things have gone kind of crazy with all the big money that's in there now, but people are going to evolve and change. That's how humans and that's how society works. So just remember who you are. Remember that you're powerful, and that you can call on God no matter what. Apologies for the slight rambliness, but it's actually getting a lot less than it used to be. It's getting a lot less. Healing up the brain. That can happen too. They used to say when I was a kid growing up, and even up until like just actually up until the past like 4 or 5 years, they said the brain is done. Once you're done growing up, that's it. It doesn't change. You can't grow new brain cells. If you have a traumatic brain injury, that's it. You just gotta live with it forever and ever. We know that that's not true now. Neuroplasticity. There's all kinds of things. There's all kinds of ways to help that happen. Thousands of years now, hundreds of years since they've started knowing anything about the brain, but they're like, no, this is the way it is, this is the way it is. People are wrong all the fucking time, dude. People are wrong all the time. Don't let their bullshit beliefs come in and contaminate you and lock you up and hold you down. That's the moral of the story. You got God inside you, dude. You can fucking do anything, and God loves you, and God doesn't care how much money you do or don't have. That's another thing. You can find that in any religious tradition too. God doesn't give a shit about any of that stuff. God cares about the condition of our hearts. Full stop. Every tradition. That's it. Love you guys.